Picture this scenario, right? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You are lying in bed, staring blankly up at the ceiling. The room is perfectly quiet, but inside your head, it is absolutely deafening.
Oh yeah, the classic highlight reel.
Exactly. Your brain is just running this high-definition highlight reel of every tiny microscopic interaction you had that day. Like, you're thinking about a coworker who sent you a text message this afternoon, but for some reason, they didn't use an emoji. Are they secretly mad at you?
Right, the missing exclamation point that somehow manages to completely ruin your sleep. It's such a classic late-night trap.
Or maybe you're thinking about how your boss walked right past your desk today without, nodding or saying hello, and your brain immediately skips over any logical explanation and jumps straight to, well, that's it, I'm definitely getting fired.
Definitely.
Or you remember a friend who blinked just a little weirdly during a conversation at lunch. Did you say something offensive? Did you ruin a 10-year friendship with a single sentence?
I mean, we have all been there. It is a very specific, yet entirely universal kind of mental torture. And it feels so real in the moment,
It really does feel like a crisis. And that is exactly what we are tackling in today's deep dive.
Yeah, it's a great topic.
Our mission today is to explore this psychological trap of, over-interpreting the world around us. We want to figure out why our brains betray us like this. And more importantly, we're going to explore a really counterintuitive cure to this problem. The source material calls it the power of insensitivity.
Which is such a fascinating concept to dive into, primarily because it completely flips our usual understanding of that word on its head.
Yeah, but before we get into the mechanics of that, I want to mention something special about our approach today. Since we custom-tailored this deep dive specifically for you, the English learner, we're going to keep our pace comfortable.
Exactly, keeping it accessible.
Right. Accessible vocabulary. We certainly aren't going to talk down to you or treat this like some robotic textbook, but we will naturally unpack some incredibly useful English phrases and idioms as we go, giving you the exact language you need to describe what's happening in your own mind.
Because having the precise vocabulary to describe your mental state is often the very first step to gaining control over it. When you can name a feeling accurately, it loses a bit of its power over you.
That is so true. So let's start by naming the problem. Why in the world does our brain decide to torture us with a weird blink at 2 in the morning when all we want to do is get some rest? I know my brain isn't actively trying to make me miserable, but it certainly feels that way.
Well, it does feel like self-sabotage, but your brain isn't actually trying to torture you at all. It is desperately trying to protect you.
Protect me by keeping me awake.
Yeah, ironically. In psychology, there is a specific term for this elevated state of alert. It's called hypervigilance. And hypervigilance leads directly to a behavior we call overreading.
Hypervigilance. That sounds intense. What is actually happening neurologically when we enter that state?
To understand the why behind hypervigilance, we really have to look at human evolution and a part of the brain called the amygdala.
The threat detection center, right?
Exactly. It's basically our internal threat detection center. Our brains are hardwired to prioritize safety above everything else. Thousands of years ago, if you missed a tiny signal in your environment, like, say, the subtle rustling of a bush or a sudden drop in the wind, you might get eaten by a predator.
Wow. Okay.
So the brain evolved to act like this incredibly sensitive, high-powered radar. It's designed to catch the tiniest environmental signals and instantly construct worst-case scenarios just to keep you on your toes.
Okay, I understand the evolutionary benefit if we're living out in the wilderness. But how does a rustling bush translate to a coworker for getting an emoji in a text message? Why does modern social friction trigger that exact same life or death alarm?
Because for early humans, social rejection was practically a death sentence. If you were kicked out of your tribe, you just wouldn't survive the winter alone.
Oh, I see.
So your amygdala learned to treat social friction, like a weird look, a perceived slight, or an angry boss, as a literal threat to your survival.
Yeah.
Your brain is flooding your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, getting you ready to fight or flee, all because someone didn't say good morning.
That is wild. So it's basically a survival mechanism that is heavily malfunctioning in the modern office environment.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes me think of a faulty smoke detector.
Oh, that is a perfect analogy.
Yeah, you know those cheap ones. You're just in your kitchen, making a completely normal piece of toast, and suddenly the alarm is screaming at you like the entire house is burning down.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. The smoke detector cannot comprehend the nuance between a slightly overdone piece of toast and a raging structural fire. It just senses smoke, assumes the worst, and triggers a massive panic response.
Right. And when your nervous system is trapped in that state of hypervigilance, every tiny breeze, like someone's slight change in tone or a delayed email reply, turns into a perceived hurricane directed right at you.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to a crucial piece of English vocabulary we want to highlight. Exhaustion. And we aren't just talking about being a little sleepy here, are we?
No, not at all. Exhaustion in this context means a total mental and physical burnout. When your internal radar is scanning for threats 24 hours a day, trying to interpret every single facial expression and text message, it requires a massive amount of cognitive energy.
So you're draining your battery just by existing in a room with other people.
Precisely.
And the action causing this exhaustion is what we call overinterpreting. For our listener, to interpret something means to figure out its meaning. But adding that prefix over means you are searching for complex, hidden meanings in tiny, meaningless details where no meaning actually exists.
There is a very common English idiom that perfectly describes this action, which is reading between the lines.
Now, reading between the lines is usually a compliment, isn't it? It means you're perceptive. You understand the unspoken dynamics in a room.
Normally, yes. During the day, in a business negotiation or a complex social situation, reading between the lines is a highly valuable skill. It helps you navigate human relationships.
Right.
But the source material points out that at night, when you're lying in bed, this skill becomes an absolute curse. You start reading between the lines of a blank page.
Oh, I like that phrasing.
Yeah, you invent malicious intent behind innocent actions simply because your brain's threat detector is stuck in the on position.
So I am over-interpreting every little detail.
Right, which is a great late-night healing sentence for the listener to practice, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm over-interpreting every little detail. And stop reading between the lines tonight.
Stop reading between the lines tonight. I like that. Okay, so I get that it's a faulty smoke detector, and I understand why my brain is doing it. But I can't just take the batteries out of my brain. I'm stuck with it. So is there an actual way to rewire this sensitivity? The source material talks about cultivating the power of insensitivity. But I have to push back on that a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Insensitive is almost always used as an insult, right? If I actively try to be insensitive, won't I just become a cold, uncaring jerk to my friends and family?
That is a very natural concern because when we hear the word insensitivity, we immediately picture someone who is rude, clumsy, or completely apathetic to the feelings of others.
Exactly, someone who just doesn't care.
But the authors of our source material are redefining the word for the realm of mental well-being. In psychology, this kind of healthy insensitivity, or what is sometimes called blunting, is actually a high-level psychological superpower.
Okay, walk me through that. How is being insensitive a superpower?
Well, it is a form of advanced psychological immunity. Healthy insensitivity doesn't mean you lack empathy or warmth. It means you are actively downgrading the incoming signals of the world.
So you're turning down the volume.
Yes. You're making a conscious choice not to process every single piece of data as a threat to your ego. If someone doesn't text you back, you choose the most mundane explanation. They're just busy.
Right.
If someone looks grumpy in the hallway, you assume they have a stomach ache. You stop assuming that the universe revolves around your actions.
The sources provided a really striking analogy for this that I found incredibly helpful. The author suggests imagining coating your emotional boundaries in a thick layer of Vaseline.
It is a very vivid, somewhat unusual image, but it makes perfect sense neurologically.
Yeah, because Vaseline is slick. It's totally slippery. The idea is that if you coat your emotional boundaries in it, then other people's malice, their bad moods, their random projections, they just slide right off you. They can't stick to your soul.
Exactly. It's a barrier.
But how do we actually apply that Vaseline in real life? Because in the moment, when my heart rate spikes, I completely forget all about these metaphors.
Applying that mental Vaseline requires a deliberate cognitive pause. It's about recognizing that you are treating a subjective emotion as an objective threat.
Okay.
And then actively applying a new filter to the situation. To see how this works, let's weave these concepts into a narrative of a highly stressful day.
Let's do it. Let's say you start your morning in a big meeting. You pitch an idea you've worked really hard on, and your boss just shoots it down in front of the whole team.
Ouch!
Yeah, the hypervigilant, highly sensitive brain immediately sounds the alarm. It says, my boss hates me, my coworkers think I'm an idiot, I am completely failing at my career.
Right, and that is the amygdala taking over. The healthy blunting mechanism, the Vaseline, is the mental pause where you reframe the event.
So what does that shift look like internally?
The internal shift is telling yourself, this is a discussion about a business idea. It is not a judgment of my fundamental value as a human being. You intentionally separate your identity from the outcome of the pitch.
You don't let it stick.
Okay.
But let's say you carry some of that residual stress with you. You leave work, go to the grocery store, and the cashier gives you a really rude, glaring look as you check out.
Another classic trigger.
Totally. The sensitive brain wants to spend the next 3 hours wondering what you did wrong. Were you standing too close? Did you speak too quietly?
The shift here is establishing a boundary of emotional ownership. You are filtering out their negativity.
Filtering out, I like that.
You tell yourself, that is their emotion, I do not own it, and I refuse to pay the emotional tax for whatever kind of day they are having. You let that dirty look hit the Vaseline and just slide away.
Which perfectly demonstrates a key English phrase we should highlight for the listener, filter out. When you filter out something, like a coffee filter, holding back the bitter grounds, you are intentionally blocking the noise or the negative energy.
Yes, only letting the important, healthy information through to your mind.
And you are refusing to do something we call taking it personally. Taking things personally is the core mechanism of hypervigilance, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It means you assume someone else's behavior is a direct attack on your character. The entire goal of building this psychic armor is to start taking the random chaos of the world personally.
Which leads to a great healing phrase to remember. Insensitivity is a form of protection.
Yes, a very powerful form of protection.
Let's finish our stressful day scenario.
Yeah.
You survive the grocery store and you go to a dinner party that evening, but it's been a long day and suddenly your social radar is completely fried. You're trying to read everyone's body language, trying to figure out if people are enjoying your stories, and the exhaustion just hits you like a wall.
In that moment, the power of insensitivity becomes an active choice. You give yourself permission to simply exist in the room without decoding the room.
That sounds so freeing.
It is. You tell yourself, I am intentionally turning down my receiver frequency tonight.
And there is a highly visual English idiom you can use to remind yourself of this mindset. Let it slide off your back. Just picture water pouring over your shoulders and sliding off your back. It doesn't soak into your clothes. You stay dry.
You let other people's opinions slide off your back. It is a wonderful image to anchor yourself when you feel the world projecting its negativity onto you.
I mean, I understand this intellectually. The analogies make sense. But we are right back to our original problem. It's 2 a.m. The house is dark. My heart is racing because I am remembering that weird blink from lunch.
Right.
I can't always logic my way out of a physiological stress response. How do I actually downregulate my nervous system when I'm already spiraling?
That is a critical point. You cannot simply debate your amygdala into calming down when it genuinely believes a tiger is in the room, which is exactly why the source material doesn't just offer philosophy.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it actually outlines a practical 3-step mindfulness exercise designed specifically for the evening. It is a biological tool to induce neural blunting right before you sleep.
I love that they provided a concrete ritual. Let's really analyze how this works. What is the first step doing to our brains?
So the first step is called blurring the lens. The author suggests taking the specific memory that is bothering you, say, the face of the cashier who glared at you, and bringing it up in your mind's eye.
Okay, I have the image.
Then you intentionally make that mental image fade out. You make it lose focus, blur it, and mentally shrink it down until it is just a tiny, insignificant black dot. And you tell yourself, it's not that important.
Wow. Why does shrinking a mental image actually help calm us down, though?
Because the visual cortex and the emotional centers of the brain are deeply connected. When you imagine a threat as large, bright, and in focus, your brain responds as if the threat is physically close and immediate.
Oh, so it feels like the danger is right there in the room with you.
Exactly. By intentionally blurring and shrinking the image, you are sending a biological signal to your nervous system that the threat is moving far away and losing its power. You are literally minimizing its neurological impact.
That makes so much sense. It's almost a way to hack the visual processing system. Okay, step 2 of the ritual introduces another visualization, which the source material calls letting it pass through.
Yes. The text offers a beautiful metaphor here. It suggests imagining your inner self, your core, as a transparent wisp of wind, or perhaps a sea sponge sitting calmly on the ocean floor.
A sea sponge, I like that.
When the unhelpful comments, the bad moods, and the late-night anxieties come rushing at you, you do not brace yourself for impacts. You do not try to block them. You just let them pass right through the holes in the sponge.
What is the psychological benefit of that, though? Like, why not imagine a brick wall instead of a sponge?
Because imagining a brick wall requires effort. Building a mental wall means you are actively resisting the thought, and resistance creates tension. When you fight a thought, you give it energy.
That is so true. The more you fight it, the bigger it gets.
Yeah. Exactly. By imagining yourself as a wisp of wind or a sea sponge, you are practicing non-resistance. You acknowledge the anxiety, but you let it flow through you without catching on to anything. It lowers your cortisol levels because your brain realizes it doesn't need to fight a battle. You remain completely dry, whole, and peaceful.
You just let the water flow right through. Which leads us to the final step. And this one involves an actual physical action. Step 3 is power down the radar.
For this step, the text instructs you to gently cover your closed eyes with your hands. You feel the warmth of your palms against your face, and you use that physical touch to consciously release the muscular tension behind your eyes and in your forehead.
I assume there's a physiological reason for this specific physical touch.
Absolutely. Applying gentle pressure to the eyes can actually stimulate the vagus nerve, which is the main component of your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the part of your nervous system responsible for rest and digestion.
Oh, so it forces you to calm down.
Right. It physically counteracts the fight or flight response. By covering your eyes, you are signaling to your brain that you are officially logging out of the world.
You are telling your brain, for the next 8 hours, I do not need to guess anything. I do not need to be understood by anyone. What happens outside this bedroom is none of my business until morning.
Let's look at the English vocabulary tied to this ritual, as these words carry a lot of comforting weight. We discussed the verb blur, meaning to make something visually unclear or out of focus, which shrinks the threat.
Then we have the phrasal verb, power down. We usually use this for electronics, just like you power down a laptop so the hard drive can stop spinning and rest. You are powering down your internal threat radar.
The ritual acts as your mental shield, which is a broad piece of armor carried to protect oneself in battle. And finally, achieving this state helps you feel comfortable in your own skin.
For our listener, feeling in your own skin is a wonderful idiom. It means you are completely at peace with who you are. You are confident and relaxed, regardless of external validation or criticism.
When your lens is blurred, the negativity passes through you, and your radar is powered down. You are finally safe in your own skin.
I love that. Let's recite the final healing affirmation from these steps for our listener to absorb.
That's a great idea.
It goes like this. I stop overreading the world tonight. I choose the beauty of insensitivity. I am not responsible for other people's moves. My mind is quiet, my shield is up, and I am safe in my own skin.
Beautifully said.
This has been a truly illuminating discussion. We covered a lot of psychological ground in this deep dive. We started by exploring the mechanics of hypervigilance, understanding that our exhausted, over-interpreting brains aren't broken, they are just relying on an outdated evolutionary smoke detector that treats social friction like a tiger attack.
From there, we examined why we need to embrace the power of insensitivity. We reframed it from a negative personality flaw into an essential form of psychological blunting. By applying that mental layer of Vaseline, we learned how to filter out negativity, separate our identity from our daily setbacks, and simply stop taking the world so personally.
And most importantly, we broke down the actual mechanisms of the late-night noise reduction ritual. We explored why blurring the mental image, practicing non-resistance like a sea sponge, and physically triggering our parasympathetic nervous system by powering down our eyes actually works to halt a midnight anxiety spiral.
It is a powerful toolkit. And as we wrap up our analysis of these sources, I think there is a really profound, broader implication here to ponder. We spend an enormous amount of our waking lives acting like amateur detectives, burning vast reserves of cognitive fuel, trying to decode the secret thoughts, judgments, and hidden motives of everyone around us.
It's true. The mental math is staggering when you really think about it.
Exactly. So I would leave you with this final thought. Imagine how much creative, brilliant, and life-changing energy we would suddenly free up if we simply chose to believe that most things in the world aren't about us at all.
Wow. If we stopped spending our energy defending against invisible attacks We could actually use that energy to build something meaningful. That is a fantastic thought to end on. To our listener practicing your English with us today, thank you for joining this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Remember to practice your new vocabulary. Keep those mental shields up and let the unnecessary noise of the world slide smoothly off your back. The next time you find yourself awake at 2 o'clock in the morning, remember that you don't have to surrender to the smoke detector. Blur the lens, power down the radar, and enjoy a peaceful, beautifully insensitive night's sleep.